for Seattle. They lost. They now dropped to 2-3 on the season. So let's check out your NFC West standings. Not going to be easy for Seattle if Russ misses significant time with that finger, especially with that porous defense, of theirs. All right, Nick, do Seattle's problems go well beyond Russell Wilson's injury at this point?
Oh, John, glad we're starting here because I do think it is important that the audience know on this Football Friday there is a team that someone on this show picked to make the Super Bowl, dare I say win the Super Bowl, who has a great quarterback and maybe the worst defense in NFL history through 5 weeks, and is in last place in their division. And it is not my Kansas City Chiefs. It is Kevin Wilde's beloved Seattle Seahawks. And so while he's cast arrows and stones throughout the weeks about the Chiefs' defense, Seattle, as we will discuss here, has major issues independent of their Iron Man quarterback, who has never missed a start, suffering, it's weird because it's a finger, but the most significant injury of his career maybe up to this point. I think Seattle was in huge trouble before Russ got hurt. If he misses real time, they are on the brink of a season from hell, because they are approaching the part of their schedule where they must rack up wins. They have Pittsburgh, New Orleans, Jacksonville. In that division, the NFC West, you've got to win the games you're supposed to win. They've already, in my opinion, Broussard, lost 2 games they were supposed to win, the Titans and the Vikings. Losing to the Rams is fine, but they were a mediocre team when Russ had 9 touchdowns, 0 picks, and a 130 passer rating through 4 weeks. Now they have a defense that can't get stops. They have an offense that might be temporarily relying on Geno Smith, and that is a recipe for disaster. So, yeah, I thought they were looking shakier than expected when Russ was out there. Now, Geno played well last night to his credit, but I don't think that's sustainable. But if Russ has to miss time, if they don't go 3-0 over these next 3, it's very hard to see how they get the 10-11 wins you're going to need to make the playoffs. So, yeah, if I'm a Seahawks fan, if I'm Kevin Wilde or Mina Kimes this morning, I am very, very anxious about what the next few weeks are going to look like for my team.
Stressed out. Stressed out.
Well, Nick, I'm with you to a large degree. Obviously, if Russell Wilson is out for any significant amount of time, they're done. I'll go that far. They are done. And yes, Geno looked good. Hopefully for Geno, he may have gotten himself a job elsewhere in the future, because he did look very good, and the interception at the end of the game wasn't his fault. But Geno's not going to carry this team to the playoffs. And so they do need Russell Wilson. But, Nick, I got to push back on you. It just makes me chuckle. The way you emphasize poor defenses of other teams, and yet you just gloss over the poor defense of the Chiefs. Now, remember, a week ago, Pete Carroll was on the under duress list because he needed to get this defense together. The defense is atrocious. The defense gives up more yards than even your Chiefs, Nick, and that's saying a lot because they're both at the bottom of the league in yards allowed on the offensive end. So they've got major problems there. But you brought up some good stuff, this schedule, and that's why I'm not ready to bury them yet. I'm not sure if you're burying them yet, but I'm not going to bury them just yet because, one, Russell has 9 days to get right, okay? It was a Thursday night game, so they don't play for another 9 days. I would be a bit stunned if he doesn't play Sunday, the following Sunday against Pittsburgh. So I don't think he will be out for any stretch of games. And then you brought up the schedule, and they need to go 3-0, at the very least 2-1. But to your point, they should go 3-0. And if they lose to Pittsburgh, then on 9 days rest, then I may be with you in saying they're done. They won't make it this year. But they still have, Nick, a lot of opportunities to beat up some of those teams in their division. I mean, that's one thing about playing in the NFC West. You do get to meet each other. It's tough, but if you can get a few wins against your opponents, you can take their records down too. So I'm not ready to bury them, lose to Pittsburgh in 9 days, and then I may be with Nick Wiles and saying that you're done.
Okay, I'm going to make a few corrections. First, I'm going to talk about Geno Smith. Then I'm going to talk about our buddy Nick Wright. And then I want to talk about Jamal Adams. First of all, Geno Smith. He didn't play okay. He didn't play all right. He didn't play pretty good. He played straight up amazing. So if Russ is missing time and you can put Geno in there, he threw one touchdown. He's like, yeah, ice in the veins. I was like, man, you've been waiting on that one for a while. I didn't know you could do that. If you threw your first touchdown in 3 years, he was ready for it. He played great. Second of all, about the Seahawks defense. They're not good. But the idea that Nick can come on national television and be like, oh, it's a major problem, not like my Chiefs, is insane. That's like saying, like, you know, I wouldn't go swimming with bull sharks, but you can go swimming with great white sharks. Like, huh? Aren't you screwed both ways? Like, no, if you look at the numbers, one's slightly more dangerous.
Can I respond
Number
to
three,
that
Jamal
before you get to
Adams.
Jamal Adams?
No, I'm doing my thing. I said Jamal. I said, I talk about three things.
Okay,
I got to talk about Jamal Adams. You can come back later. Here's Jamal Adams. Jamal Adams, I like Jamal Adams. But he had plays yesterday that boggles the mind. The play to Deshaun Jackson that bailed out a bad series from Stafford, he overruns it, gets totally lost. The replay's even worse. Like, Jamal Adams, where are you going? There's Deshaun Jackson. Scores. We dig into the numbers. This is Seahawks defense overall, specifically Jamal Adams. Most yards, you saw that, second most of the Chiefs. Adams is the fourth hot, making a bunch of money. He's not playing well. He's got 1 interception last 46 games, 0 sacks. And I know you're thinking, like, Wilds, he's got to be doing something out there, isn't he? Like, yes, he is. Unfortunately, tackling members of his own team is not good tape to show in the locker room. Like, hey, you know what? Here's tackling his own guy. Boom, have that. So big hit. Try to go for the other team, not the guys on your own team. So Jamal Adams, defense, get right. I am not as nearly as down as you guys are on the Seahawks. Russ can still make it work. If he's out, Geno can make it work. Defense needs to get better. Go ahead, Nick. Now you can be mad at me. Say that the Chiefs are different.
Okay,
Here we
this
go.
is a bunch here. First of all, everyone's happy for Geno, but Kevin Wildes is the only person in the continental U.S. who thinks it's sustainable, including Geno. Geno is not waking up this morning like, oh, I'm about to do that again. He's like, oh, wow. Not sure where that came from, but that was fun.
Time out.
Second of all, yeah, please. Go ahead, time.
I bet you the Rams defense, why shouldn't he feel like that? He cooked up the Rams defense, was moving the ball.
Yeah, Rams defense not been good this year, buddy. So, like, that's the other thing that we'll discuss when we talk about the Rams. They seem to really miss Brandon Staley. And so that's, you know, who's now the head coach for the Chargers, was their defensive coordinator. Okay. I'm glad, though, since you guys are so insistent on just shoehorning the Chiefs into every conversation, that you did bring up Jamal Adams. One of the reasons that I am not as concerned is, like, well, they have Jamal Adams, who seems to be doing nothing. The Chiefs in the exact same spot do have Tyrann Mathieu, who does everything. I think he'll start to play better. But we can save the Chiefs for the Bills conversation. We can, well, Chris Jones, pretty good player. Frank Clark getting healthier. But we can save the Chiefs for later discussion, because this is the last day you guys are going to be able to flaunt about the Chiefs, as we said, after they beat the Bills. But that's for later in the show. But let me address something about the Seahawks as a whole. I wonder if Russell Wilson knew this team wasn't that good. How much of Russell Wilson this summer, flirting with other teams, I don't want to go anywhere, but here's 4 teams you could send me to, was
that I would go
He's been with this team for a decade, and he was like, yeah, we ain't got it. Like, this year's team is not going to be able to compete for a championship, and he wanted to get out ahead of it. Because, again, going into last night, the only quarterback in football with a better passer rating than Mahomes was Russ. He had 9 touchdowns, 0 picks, and an impossible 130 passer rating, and they were 2-2. And so you look at Seattle's offense, you're like, you do have DK Metcalf, you do have Tyler Lockett. On defense, Jamal Adams is at least a big name. Bobby Wagner's not who he once was, but he's still a very good linebacker. And that their second-round pick, the kid who got the sack last night, has had a sack in almost every game this year. It's like, why aren't they better? I wonder if Russ knew. I wonder if Russ had a feeling